we are going to learn about how to solve equations of this variety. So these are called one-step division equations because there's one step used to solve them and there's division involved. But before we get into how to solve out this equation, which I've written in two ways, we'll talk about that in a little bit, I want to go over the key part of this, which is the multiplication property of equality. What it basically says is this: if you and I each have the same amount of money, let's say you have $15 and I have $15, we'll write an equation for that. So $15 is equal to $15, right? It's the same amount of money. And we each double the amount of money that we have. In other words, I'd multiply the amount of money I have by 2, and you'd multiply the amount of money you have by 2. I'm using the dot multiplication notation here. It's the same as the little x. Well, 2 times 15 we would expect to equal 30 on both sides. So what this says is, if I have an equation that starts out true, and I multiply both sides by the same number, I will get another true equality. Very cool, but simple stuff. Now we're going to use that idea to solve out this equation. So let me erase this, provide a little bit of room for us to cruise. So we've got m divided by 6 is equal to 8, or written a second way, m over 6 equals 8. I actually prefer doing this notation versus this notation for solving my equation. So if I'm given this notation, I rewrite it like that. So how do I solve m over 6 equals 8? How do we deal with that? Well, you could do it mentally and say, what number divided by 6 is 8? Well, 6 times 8 is 48, so 48 divided by 6 is 8. So 48 is our answer. So that's a way to do it mentally. To do it out with the multiplication property of equality, we very simply think of it this way. How do I undo what is being done to the variable m? Well, m is being divided by 6. How do we undo division? With multiplication. So we'll do multiplication by 6. Remember that with solving equations, whatever you do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other side so that I keep the equation balanced and true. So I'm multiplying both sides by 6. That's the multiplication property of equality. When I multiply this side by 6, I undo division by 6. So 6 and 6 completely divide out to give you 1. So they undo each other. That leaves me with one variable here, m, which is what I wanted to solve for. Then I go to the right-hand side of the equation and I do out that operation. Through our knowledge of the multiplication table, 8 times 6 is 48, and there is our answer. How do we check our answers for these kinds of problems? You might wonder. Well, I take my solution and I evaluate it into my equation. So I have m over 6 equals 8. So I'm looking at that as some empty spot, which is called m, that's in the parentheses, divided by 6 is equal to 8. I insert this number into here. That's the evaluation part. 48 divided by 6. It's 8, and so we know that we're correct. So this part right here is just an extra little check. Very awesome stuff, all about how to solve division equations with the multiplication property of equality.